Fantastic. So hello and welcome everyone. We are the Fourth Wall. My name is Greg, even though I am labeled as the Fourth Wall. This is Neil, our trombonist, and this is Hillary, our flutist. You are about to experience virtual performance, vibrant possibilities. Our new workshop about creating digital work and treating the digital realm as sort of a new parameter in developing site-specific work. The way we're going to run this show is we're going to start by performing for you a little bit. We're going to do a short little 15-minute version of our signature variety show, which we call Fruit Flies Like a Banana. I'm going to let Neil take it away to describe how the next 15 minutes are going to work.
Yes, so it has been said that time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana, and that's where we get the title of our variety show in which the audience chooses the show order. But before we even get to that part of it, we want to demonstrate a little bit about what we do, combining music, theater, and dance into our hybrid art form that we're performing over the years. Of course, we cannot do that from our 3 separate locations as we've done it before, but we can show a video of us using a different kind of technology than we are used to in pandemic times. So here is a little bit of Chopin for you on hoverboards.
Hear you right now, but that's okay because we're going to continue the show and we need your help. The way this is going to work is between each piece, I'm going to show a set of options and we're going to share a Zoom poll with you. And you choose A, B, or C, depending on which one you want to see next. And that's basically it. So you choose A, B, or C, that's what we do next. So let's take it away, shall we? Here's your first...
Just a quick note, this event is being recorded, so don't worry, you'll be able to watch it later. And for those of you watching this in the future, outside of the live time, this is what the Zoom poll looks like. It's a poll. You can pick a card, any card, and then we can show you the results. However, you will not be able to see the polls as our live audience will. We are excited to have all of you here joining us with Zoom. And we will invite you to turn your cameras on in a little bit, so be prepared for that. We want you to be in the show with us. This is the way that we build connection and build community through these Zoom events. So now I'll let Hillary take it away. Sorry for that interruption.
Thanks. No, that's great. I forgot that we were recording. All right, so here's your first set of options, my friends. A, diddly diddly. B, giant puppy. Or C, high art shenanigans. So that poll is up on your screen right now if you're watching right now. Pick A, B, or C. What do you want to see first? Deedly deedly, giant puppy, or high art shenanigans? I'm going to give you all about 5 more seconds to make your choices. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and Oh, when we have a tie, I get to choose. And so therefore, I'm going to pick Giant Puppy because that means I get to share my dog with you. Okay. All right. Which
And
means
while
Greg
Hillary
is
gets
gonna
ready to
stall.
share her dog, I'm going to stall, indeed. Stalling is an important part of Zoom shows when we get to play with the technology and move things around to different spaces. One thing we've all gotten very well acquainted with in these Zoom eras is seeing other people's homes, and it's kind of a fun new way to build perspective. So we get to meet Hillary's dog, General Organa, and here we are.
Come here. Come here. Okay. So this is my Great Dane Jen. She is 3.5 years old. And every time we do this show, you got to wake up. I know it's early for you. Are you ready? This is what we do. Are you ready? Not want to run today. And that is my giant puppy. Good girl, Peanut.
Bravo,
Pick
Jen.
a card, any card.
We throw it to you.
Card.
Pick
Any
a card,
card.
any card, but you don't know what's coming up next. We're about to show you these new options. Here we come in just a moment. Throwing it back to Hillary. Pick a card, any card.
All right, here is your next set of options, my friends. A, deedly deedly. B, the people could fly. Or C, high art shenanigans. What are you feeling? What do you want to see? What shall we do next? Deedly deedly, the people could fly. Or high art shenanigans. Make your choices now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have a winner, and that winner is high art shenanigans.
Yes, and for these high art shenanigans, we're going to present to you a piece that could be originally considered high art shenanigans, especially when it was first written. This is In C by Terry Riley, a seminal piece as far as indeterminate music and engaging improvisation and the autonomy of the performer in the creative act. So in many ways, In C is perfectly suited for doing live over Zoom. Anyone who's tried to perform with someone in the last year doing chamber music over the internet knows that latency is a real hassle. However, the kaleidoscopic nature, the way that In C shifts between these musical cells while having a steady pulse, gives us the unique ability to play it live here on Zoom. So I've got a pre-recorded pulse that is our C, and we'll go ahead and play along with it for a bit of Terry Riley's In C. We hope you enjoy. Pick a card, any card.
Pick a card, any card. All right, friends, here is your next set of options. A, Deedly Deedly. B, The People Could Fly. Or C, Dance Party. What are you feeling? What's it gonna be? Deedly Deedly, The People Could Fly, or Dance Party. Make your choices now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have another tie. Oh man, you guys are so good at agreeing about what you want to see. I love it. I am here for it, but this does mean I get to be the tiebreaker. So we're going to go ahead and do The People Could Fly. So this piece, The People Could Fly, was written by Alice Jones. Alice is a flutist. She's a Haynes artist, and she lives in New York City. She works at Juilliard. She is fabulous, phenomenal. I adore her with all my heart. And this summer, she wrote a set of pieces for her Tiny Efforts pieces. And she also has a new series called Tiny Efforts 2021 as well that I highly recommend everyone check out. These are all available on her website, alicehjones.com, free to download. And they're just short pieces that they just really brought me a lot of joy because they were different and they are just you know, when you get that one of those pieces that's just satisfying. This is one of those pieces. The People Could Fly is titled after an African-American folk tale discussing how enslaved peoples once had the ability to fly because they had wings. When they were brought to America, the folk tale says that they lost their wings in enslavement. But they relearned that ability to fly. So this piece is very near and dear to our hearts. It is beautiful. I actually personally feel like it should be the next Syrinx. And I hope you enjoy it. This is our version of The People Could Fly with hand choreography inspired by the warmth and simplicity of this beautiful piece. I hope you enjoy. Pick a card, any card. Here's your next set of options. A, diddly diddly, or C, dance party. Now, if you all choose B, then I'm going to make the decision myself. So I highly recommend you choose just A or C. One or the other. What are you feeling? What are we going to do? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have a winner, and that winner is Dance Party.
Woo! And that was a close one. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it to Dance Party. There was a late surge in voting for Deedly Deedly. So now this Dance Party is when we would like you to please turn on your cameras and join us. Don't worry, it is not high stakes. Yes, this is being recorded, but we're only going to share it on like 7 social media channels, not on all of them. You'll be safe from Clubhouse. So dance parties are a great way to bring community, and we're going to teach you a few dances that you can do. I'll teach you some of the first ones, which you can do seated. They don't take a lot of motion, and they're inspired by some of my favorite dance moves from like a big Bhangra dance party, the Indian celebration dances and parties of the harvest. So the first one is putting the luggage in the overhead. It's just put the luggage in the overhead, luggage in the overhead. And I want to see at least a few more people doing it. Yes, luggage in the overhead. If you want to spice it up, you can also twist in the light bulb, 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 twist in the light bulb. Excellent. Loving seeing these dances. Yes, and so many people are more turning on their cameras. Fabulous. All right, Neil's going to give you a little bit more high energy, full body option if you feel like getting your cardio this morning. So here's Neil.
Yes, so if you do have a little bit more space and feel like getting up on your feet, one of my childhood heroes was, of course, Snoopy from the Charlie Brown specials, and he has a very distinctive way of dancing that you might call the Russian Cossack dance. It's all about getting knees up. And then you can freestyle with your arms however you like. Be very fancy, be very Snoopy-esque. And it's also very aerobic.
You can even do those arms from your seat. Last but not least, we are going to do a bit of ballet music. So we're going to throw it over to Miss Hilary Abigana, who will be our ballet mistress for the morning, to tell you what we're about to embark upon.
All right, so we are actually going to do music by Tchaikovsky from the great Swan Lake. This is the Signettes. So I've got my tutu on. If you are seated, I want you to lean yourself to the left of your screen so you're all the way over. If you're standing like I am, take yourself, walk yourself to the left side of your screen, because we're going to go back and forth. We're going to be the dance of the little swans, so we're getting our knees out to the sides. And I would like you all also to put yourselves in gallery view right now. That's in the upper right-hand corner up here in Zoom. Park yourselves in gallery view so you can see everyone on either side of you. I want you to put arm over arm, pretend to hold the hands of the folks in the boxes next to you, and we're going to move to the right sides of our screens with our knees out. And here's a little music by Tchaikovsky from Swan Lake.
Now switch those wings and back the other way. And now you can freestyle it. Is your swan a Snoopy? Is it putting some luggage somewhere? Yes, Jill, loving seeing these wings. Fantastic. Karen, huge moves in your kitchen. Excellent. Ted, great. Loving seeing the arm creativity. Now back to those swans. Arms crossed, moving from left to right. That's totally on the wrong side of my screen. And switch your wings. Rock it out to the end. And give yourselves a round of applause, sign language applause if you want, or snaps, however you're feeling it. That was fabulous. Thank you all so much for playing with us. We have one last card for you. We're not going to worry about a poll for this one. We're just going to call it out.
It is diddly diddly.
Indeed.
And we lost my camera. It's fine. It's fine. We'll go to this one. All right. So, I need to, hold up, plug my headphones back in so you don't get weird noises. All right. That's better. That's probably better. So, We just had the month of March, and in the month of March, of course, there's always a lot of Irish music. Now, this bit of music I would love to play for you isn't Irish, it's actually English, but it sounds enough like it that we're going to do it anyways. Because, well, you know, our show, our rules. Let me just get my audio shared. There we go. Now I'm about ready to do all the things. It's going to be great, friends. So this piece is before we moved to Massachusetts. We're all based in Massachusetts, by the way. Greg and I used to run an Irish music session in Indianapolis, and that's kind of where we got our love of Irish music going. There we go. We're going to get that shared screen. So this is a couple of pieces by Ignatius Sancho. He was a composer that lived at the same time as Bach, but he was a fascinating person. He was a composer. He was a man of letters. He was a businessman, and he was actually the first Black person to vote for British Parliament. So I'm going to play a couple of tunes for you. They're actually English country dances, but I'm playing them in the style of traditional Irish reels on a traditional penny whistle. Enjoy. And there we have it, my friends. That is Fruit Flies Like a Banana. Now, that was the demonstration portion of our lecture demonstration today. We're going to talk about all the things that we just did. And I'm going to send that first off over to Neil, who's going to talk a little bit about the history of virtual performing.
Yeah, so it was about a year ago when we were first considering performing online, not knowing when we would perform in person yet. And yeah, just going, well, the thing that we do where we dance while we play our instruments and we interact with our audience, that doesn't translate to film, doesn't translate to Zoom, does it? So our first thought was, well, I guess we'll play some videos of some performances that we've done before. But then we started to think a little bit more, and in fact, the tools of virtual performance have been with us for a long time, and the tools of virtual performance will continue to be with us well into the future, past the time when we are performing primarily in person again. So if we look at sort of the history of virtual performance, we might see that maybe virtual performance 1.0, we can consider the virtual choir projects of Eric Whitaker. So the first of those was made in 2010, and we're going to show you just a little clip of this. So virtual performance 1.0, as you can see, recreating in digital form the live concert experience. So obviously they took great pains to recreate the sort of three-dimensional live performance experience in a digital way. There, of course, have been steps beyond that. The a cappella app is something you've probably seen many people creating their own videos on their phones. Um, Multi-tracking, multi-recording video of themselves, creating video in a similar way. So we're still in sort of virtual performance 1 point something. And then we also have the example of Mitchell Rose, who is a filmmaker who has worked with a number of dancers. Perhaps you've seen this film, Exquisite Core, which involves many different dancers collaborating on a single piece over time and over the miles. So here's a little clip of that.
I will be an exquisite corpse.
And the rest of that video and other films that Mitchell Rose has created are beautiful. Definitely check them out. So these were examples that we had already for us before the pandemic sent us all indoors scrambling for ways to interact digitally. So when we were trying to figure out how we were going to create what we might call virtual performance 2.0, we had these examples of, again, recreating concert experience in the digital realm, maybe involving people who couldn't be together. Of course, multi-tracking one person's recordings into one video, but then also creating site-specific work in that dance piece that was a painstaking process, but totally worth it. So how do we take these as influence and create our own thing? We were really driven by the idea of let's create something that is site-specific for Zoom and create pieces that we can perform at a distance because the three of us are all separate and our audience is separate, but how do we give everyone a front row seat and still involve the audience? So that was our call to action, and we rose to the challenge, we think, in a variety of ways.
One ready-made way we had to build in this work and bring the audience to the front row was by using some of the better bits of high-quality performance and archival video that we had. Just even seeing a show through a camera gives you a deeper, more intimate experience, like we shared with that video of Chopin on hoverboards, or maybe that you've seen with the old Bernstein children's concerts performances, where you have the camera getting right up within the orchestra and you get that new intimate view. When you're sharing those, there's a variety of ways you can do it on Zoom. You can share from YouTube. You can share from files via screen share. I'll be giving a document at the end of this that is full of tech tricks and info and details about how to do virtual performance stuff, the exact equipment you need, some pitfalls to avoid, making sure that you're using computer sound, you're optimizing for video sharing. So there'll be some details in there. You don't have to worry about taking too much notes right now. I spent a bunch of time writing it down. I've got some links for you within that. A couple basics though. Anytime you're doing something online, you want to make sure you're hardwired into the internet using an Ethernet cable. This can be a bit of a hassle, but it is so worth it. The audience will forgive a lot of things, but a choppy connection, as we all know and remember from the days of maybe dial-up internet, there's nothing worse than watching something load. So there's great ways to work around that. Even if you're doing virtual performance, doing something like a live premiere or an instant premiere on YouTube or Vimeo is a great way to kind of sidestep this. Do you need your audience live? Do you need to be live? For us, yeah, we do. We thrive on your energy, we thrive on your presence and our ability to tap into the community that we can establish with you. So toss it over to Hillary to talk a little bit more about that, establishing connection.
So, one of the pieces that is always in our repertoire when we do this show is when I chase my dog around the house. Partly because taking a secondary camera into a different area gives your audience a new perspective, which helps keep them engaged in this virtual space. There's also something to be said for the humanizing factor of taking your audience into your home and introducing them to your four-legged family. From a creativity standpoint, think of it as anywhere that you can take the camera, you can take your audience. Just like taking the camera into the middle of the orchestra, you can't do that from your seats in watching the orchestra live, but a camera can go in there. But also, a live in-person audience can't get inside of a drum, and they can't see an embouchure up close, but a virtual one can. That's really helpful when talking about how the flute makes a noise. Here's an example of what that was Neil's secondary camera that he puts up during one of his pieces, where he puts that camera at the very end of his trombone slide, and we get to see that slide coming in and out of him. It is so great. You could see our reactions up above in that picture as well, as we get a very up close picture of Neil. It's also important to take care of your audience. We've been doing this giant puppy thing since our very first virtual Fruit Flies Like a Banana virtual style a year ago last April. And it's become an important part of the show because return audiences expect it. And they demand to see my dog. So honestly, if an audience demands it, sometimes you just gotta give it to them, especially if it's really fun. I'm going to toss it over to Neil to talk about some of the latency things that we've already briefly discussed, but we'll talk a little bit more about.
Yeah, so of course, we wanted to find a way to still perform live and perform as an ensemble and not just have individual performances where, yeah, maybe we can take the camera in a new place, show a new perspective, but wouldn't it be nice if we could perform together? And we discovered that considering the music of Terry Riley, amongst other indeterminate composers, where the piece itself does not rely on precise rhythmic coordination between all different moving parts, gives us enormous freedom. And the main challenge is making sure that we're all at least thinking the same tempo. So the metaphor really is, if the train is connected and it's all traveling at the same speed, yes, the engine and the caboose are going to arrive at different times, but the train as a whole still arrives at the station at the same time. So having that pulse as a pre-recorded track that we're all listening to, that gives us all that rhythm of the train, that tempo that we can lock into, knowing that what we are hearing is not even going to be the same thing that anyone out there is hearing. So at least we can lock in with that. And then sometimes in our performances, we've demonstrated how latency really doesn't enable group music making. So we'll have the audience join us in a round singing of Row, Row, Row Your Boat or whatnot. Sometimes we'll also use the tool of the chat to let the audience weigh in on what they heard. And we might ask them the question, okay, we performed this now over Zoom with latency, knowing that that's part of it. So what is gained by this and what's lost, especially for those connoisseurs who really know the difference between a live performance and a virtual performance over Zoom? Sometimes it's really interesting to hear them kind of discover, oh yeah, there is something unique and interesting about this performance that we will kind of be lacking once we get back to live in-person performances. Certainly one of the things that we've discovered we might miss later on is the ability to draw in friends and collaborators from many different time zones, not just different locations. But we've been able to perform in C with groups of musicians that we know from far-flung places, people we've not seen in person for a long time. And just for those few moments, we really do feel like we can play chamber music together. So that is an enormous blessing. Finding music that does work and does allow for the unruliness that is built into the platform.
So Neil was talking a lot about the programming and how we try to program to what will work on in the virtual sphere, what will thrive in the virtual sphere, and what are some things that we might just take from our live show and do it as here as well. One of those pieces was Dance Party, of course. Audience participation has always been an incredibly important part of our work. The live version of Fruit Flies Like a Banana doesn't work without participation. And so we had to ask ourselves, how do we get that element in this virtual sphere? How do we foster that feeling that the audience isn't just there to appreciate, but they're there as an essential part of how it runs? In a live Fruit Flies, we use a deck of cards, a suspended wooden alphabet, a box of chocolates, an inflatable globe to determine the show order. For virtual style, of course, we use that Zoom poll function, which you all were magnificent with. But just like in a live Fruit Flies, we have other participatory pieces that we want the audience to be a part of. So with Dance Party, in our live show, with the whole audience dancing in the audience space, it's so much fun and it gets everyone just amped. And it was actually a pretty easy transition to make it into this virtual sphere by switching from speaker view to gallery view. These gallery view moments create a sense of community amongst our audience members, something that can be easily missed in a virtual show when everyone is separated in their own homes. Those moments of gallery view bring a co-presence into the audience awareness that, oh yeah, we're all enjoying this and doing this together. We've done a few different versions of a group dance party, and again, returning to know thy audience, we chose Swan Lake today because it's probably fairly familiar to many of you. But this was an opportunity to do something silly with a piece that many of us know, something that is just out there and joyful, and something that we might usually associate with being serious, but taking it out of that serious realm. Lastly, I want to mention that Zoom fatigue is so real, and engagement or participation keeps your audience with you a little bit longer as a performer. So for a virtual show, think of different ways of how to take care of your audience. You can invite them to sit or lay down and just listen, or maybe it's more active, maybe it's not. But there's a lot of different ways that you can help combat Zoom fatigue by just thinking a little bit more about what your audience could use in that moment. And a lot of these pieces you can consider as well for your live performances as well.
So much of what we've built in this work is about taking what you have available and making something new with it, making something creative. That's what happened with The People Could Fly. That originally started as a piece built around the Zoom squares when Zoom first introduced the ability to spotlight multiple hosts or participants. So that's how Hillary, Neil, and I can all be featured on the screen while not showing everyone else in gallery view. We structured that piece around the ability to pass something from one of us to the other. So like if I put Hillary up on screen with me, I can hand her something over here and she can reach out and grab it. Bloop. And we can make these connections with a little bit of practice. So by doing that,
Did I do it good?
I sure hope so.
All
it feels backwards because I'm sending out my wrong arm for where Hillary was.
Yeah, that's what I just did. So, okay, great.
So what we did, the reason we showed the video today is because doing these tricks can sometimes be a little bit fallible. We wanted to share the video version that we made of People Could Fly because this is being recorded, and sometimes recording or live streaming sets the squares of a multi-spotlight in a different place or won't show gallery view. And then it's a real bummer when you just see my screen and I'm like over here on my secondary camera doing the piece. We've had that happen more than once, and it's part of live performance. Even though we're doing it virtually, it is still a live show. Another thing that we can do exploring this virtual realm, in addition to playing with our squares and our spaces, putting color filters over our cameras, using secondary cameras, is playing around with some of the stuff ingrained in the tech. The piece that Hillary played by Sancho uses a bit of virtual background. I actually put a cleaning cloth over my camera to black out my screen and then share a virtual background to give the illusion that we have a video playing. Hillary, at the same time, is sharing sound, so she's perfectly synced with what you're hearing. Because the sound is coming from the same source, we get this really interesting ability to play duets with ourselves. You can even, I've done a duet piece where I'm behind the vibraphone and I talk for a bit and then my real life self pops up. It's just about exploring what's there and using these new parameters of the virtual world to say, okay, how can this enhance my creativity? How can this enhance our connection to the audience? Again, taking care of your audience is such an important thing, giving them something novel to look at, giving them something novel to experience. And there's so much more. No matter where you're going, if you're looking at a more intensive broadcasting software like the free OBS system that a lot of people use to broadcast these live shows, you can put filters, layers, covers, you can cut off part of the screen, you can share videos, you can decide where screens go. There's so much available to us that we're all able to learn. We all have this new opportunity to learn. Even as we evolve out of the only Zoom shows realm back into real life, maybe we'll take some of this with us. The work that we did with People Could Fly could be projected, or the idea of playing a duet with a virtual image maybe becomes a holograph piece in the future. So who knows what's next for us. Neil, you want to wrap us up? We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure thing. So, building on that thought of making site-specific performance out of the Zoom platform, and just going under the hood, finding the tricks that are in there, finding that you can use a poll, you can spotlight each other, you can use a virtual background, you can use these tricks for a different purpose than they were intended. Always finding a workaround for the way to work. It also just dovetails back to the way that the three of us have worked in the past. We've been an ensemble for over a decade now, but we've never all three lived in the same city. So in a way, we were kind of well prepared for this work because we often worked remotely anyway. We were Skyping on a weekly basis prior to the pandemic. And of course, we would make plans for when we're in the room together, making an arrangement. And that had to change. So suddenly we were able to rethink, okay, People Could Fly, start with the flute part as written, then what? And then work that process remotely. Greg and I both recorded our parts individually. And when it came together, it worked. And we're all learning in the process how to better record and document our work remotely, but we're also hopefully becoming more efficient at working together so that when we are in the room again, that time really is much more important that we are together and we're not doing the creative background work in the same room together necessarily. So we're learning in the process, and we feel like these tools are going to continue to be useful to us. But it's also a really great opportunity for anyone who has not, in the history of their organization, been already playing around with the default settings of performance. So that is kind of our MO from the beginning. We've really invested in like, okay, let's rethink what this moment is. But I think the Zoom performance, virtual performance capability that we kind of need right now will continue for us. And I think, and I hope people will continue to investigate what their default settings are. Like, where do you stand while you play? Who's in the room? What do you wear? When does the audience applaud? When does the audience interact in any way? Does the audience have a role in the unfolding of the event? All of these questions need to be addressed before you do it here in this other venue. So we might as well continue that thinking and look for the creative opportunities once we're back in person, finding a way to work in a multimedia way, live, with projections, or using our skills of creating virtual content to market our performances, to put something up on social media that is created for that realm and also sells the show that you're hoping to get people in their seats for. So we invite you to go forth and conquer, knowing that the uncertainty is important in this process. If you don't know what you're doing, that's par for the course. No one knew what they were doing a year ago. We didn't know what we were doing, and that was exciting to us. So you can always reach out to people you know. Of course, we have a document that we put up of recommendations for the tech side of things. But yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you're in the right place. And please do reach out for the resources and also just figure something out yourselves. That's been par for the course for us.
We've got one last poll to
yeah.
send you on your way. Right, Hillary?
Which one are we doing? Because I am prepared for 3. We don't have time for 3.
I think we will have the one where we send them away thinking, are they ready? to
All
give
right.
this a try.
I
Any
got
of
that. All right, my friends. So we have one last poll for you. And the question is, are you ready to go forth and conquer? Here are your options. Yes, affirmative, or hold my beer. Make your choices now.
Hey,
Are you ready to go forth and conquer? All right, someone's ready to do some holding of the beer. Yeah. Awesome. Yes, affirmative, and hold my beer. Thank you so much, my friends, for being a part of Virtual Performance Vibrant Possibilities. Our information is in the chat. If you would like to get in touch, if you have questions about what we do, about this virtual sphere, we are more than happy to answer any questions that you have. That tech document is also in the chat. Or if for some reason you don't get a chance to get in touch with all that stuff, the Fourth Wall Ensemble, you can find us on most social media channels that way, as well as our website. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
And I think Neil and I could steal 1 or 2 extra minutes if anyone has questions. We're going to let Hillary go because she has to run off to another commitment. But
I
if
have to
anyone
run
has-
to a meeting. I am so sorry. They planned it without me, and now I have to go. So, but I'll let Greg and Neil take over. So thank you all so much. Thank you so much for all you do, New York Flute Club. It is an honor to be here, and y'all are
And
the
thank
best.
you to Powell Flutes. Hillary's a Vern Q. Powell.
Oh yeah,
Flutes
I'm a
artist.
Powell artist. Ha ha! I tricked him to making me a Powell artist. Ha ha! So thank you.
All right,
Powell
Hillary, you got to
Flutes.
go.
I'm gonna go.
We'll take care of
Okay.
these folks. If you have questions,
Lovely.
feel free to throw them in the chat or do a raised hand in participants, or even just like say something you enjoy. It's something that you're taking with you for the rest of the day from this experience as you explore more things throughout this wonderful weekend that the New York Flute Club has set up. We're so grateful anytime folks invite us to be on something like this. I've put some links in the chat. We have links for some of the videos we've shown. If you want to find our information or our videos, you can go to our YouTube page, which I will also link in chat real quick.
And it's great to see that some people have enjoyed the dance party. We find it really just so necessary because we're sitting staring at a screen for so long, and just to be able to, give ourselves permission to get up and be silly and wiggle ourselves and get that circulation going. We find it necessary, and especially when we perform for a school audience. That's an important moment in the show. We usually put a couple dance parties in there because, it's good to get up and move around, be a mammal again.
And to be able to give shout outs to your audience, to recognize that they're there with you. When you're watching them, you can say, hey, nice job, I see you dancing, you're making some great moves. Or, when it's a school show, there's inevitably going to be 6 kids flossing. So you can shout out and holler. They're like, oh, that's some great flossing. Look at you doing that 3/2 high polyrhythm with your hips and arms. I'm a percussionist. I can't help it.
That is what
So,
it's about.
We're going to release the room so New York Flute Club can go to next events. Thank you all again so much for being here. We'll look forward to seeing you around, and hopefully we'll catch all of you in person as soon as it's safe to do so. So be kind to yourself, be well, stay healthy as best you can, and we'll all get through this together. Feel free to be in touch. Thank you all so much for having us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.